out there. And of course, we have the culture war on display, as you just saw. Joining us now from Washington to deal with both of these issues, Fox News analyst Laura Ingraham. You know, I just want to remind people you're a lawyer, you clerk for a Supreme Court justice. Who was that justice again?
Justice Clarence Thomas.
Okay. And I couldn't get an answer out of either of my first two guests about the Constitution and whether the civil rights of African Americans equate with the civil rights of gay Americans.
Well, I couldn't predict what this court would do, given where the court has been all over the place on so many issues. But when you look at the basic rights that were denied to African Americans over the course of so much of our history, whether it was the full voting rights, whether it was the right to own property, education rights, the right to eat in the same restaurant as white people, to ride in the same part of a public transportation, public accommodations, hotels, all of it. I mean, to equate that with this great discussion and this great debate over marriage, I think is quite off base, to put it lightly. And a lot of my friends who aren't really political, Bill, who happen to be African American, the tendency on their part is to get really annoyed when the left tries to co-opt the civil rights movement for the current political debate of the day.
But that's the argument. That is absolutely,
well, of course it is. What else are they going to argue?
It's like, you're violating my rights, you won't let me get married.
Well,
and then interracial marriage was struck down by the Supreme Court in Virginia.
Bill, how has that worked? How did that work in California for them, that argument? 70% of African Americans from a diverse backgrounds chose to come out and vote for Proposition 8. And I think what we really need to talk about here is that this happens, Bill, every time the courts take an issue like this away from the people. And after the 2000 California version of the Defense of Marriage Act passed, overwhelmingly by 60% of Californians, the Supreme Court of California came along and with a stroke of a pen invalidated the entire history, the entire tradition of the state of California when it comes to marriage. And when they did that, they set off a firestorm, not just among conservative voters or evangelical white voters. They set off a firestorm among every demographic group outside of Santa Monica, outside of Beverly Hills, outside of San Francisco, Marin County. When you look at the breakdown of the state of California on Prop 8, Bill, it's really interesting. The eastern part of the state and Orange County and the very northern district in California all voted for Prop 8. All the coastal areas that I just ticked off, they all voted against it.
Okay, but the judges in California said, look, it doesn't matter what the people say, it doesn't matter how the people vote, because it's unconstitutional and it's against, and they come back time and time again. In Connecticut, they used to come back time and time again, and the Supreme Court struck down interracial marriage, ban of interracial marriage in Virginia, struck it down. This is the exact same thing. They don't see any difference.
Well, I think you pointed out something. That there are a lot of folks out there who are saying, look, civil partnerships, we don't really see much of a problem with. But when you want to co-opt and take the word marriage and apply it to a different type of arrangement, it might be gay couples, it might be three people living together, it might be a single person who wants the same benefits as married couples when it comes to tax breaks and so forth. The people of every individual state, they're making their own minds up. And look, this has been a tradition and a history throughout our country's history and long before that in Western civilization that no one really debated about until about the last 10 years or so. This is a new debate.
But that's what happens in the secular progressive movement. I mean, there's stuff that they want. And I was surprised it happened so quickly. I figured there'd be a little euphoria in that community over Barack Obama, and bang.
Did you see what Rosie O'Donnell said today?
No, I did not.
She said in her blog that blacks who voted for Prop 8 were biased and ignorant. Now, that's a great way to win over support for your movement.
Well, there's been some pretty nasty stuff all over the far-left blogs against African Americans, right?
Yeah, and even in the blogs that I've checked out, there are gay, black protesters against Prop 8 who showed up at some of these rallies. They were even called names, and some reported to have been called the N-word. Now, this is on blogs that are very popular within the gay community, and they're saying, look, we're with you, and you're calling us these names. So there's a real fault lines that are being, I think, revealed here. And I'm not sure that the people out there in those rallies outside the LDS Church really doing themselves any favors. But look, we should fight about this. It's an important issue, and everybody has their free speech rights.
Okay. It's not going to be resolved because there's no resolution. It's like abortion. You know, you either believe that life begins at conception. You don't. There's not going to be any, and this is the same way. Okay, now Laura's going to be back in a moment to analyze the